Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to my virtual classroom. Okay, today I'm gonna be discussing with you patterns in nature. So when we speak of patterns in nature, these are regularities in our environment, and we have several patterns in nature which also correlates or which also related to mathematics. So example, say for example, uh, one of the patterns in nature is spiral, which is also related to the Fibonacci sequence. So I'll be giving you details of this when we proceed to our lesson. So one pattern in nature which very common is symmetry. It means that one shape becomes exactly like another when you move it in some way, turn, flip, or slide. And for objects to be symmetrical, they must be the same size and shape, with one object having a different orientation from the first. So say for example, I have a piece of paper, a one sheet of paper, a regular size paper. And if I'm going to fold it into two, you'll see that the other side is equal to another side. And all the points on the edges coincide with one another. So that is symmetry. There are several examples of symmetrical objects in our environment or in our surroundings, and it has something to do with mathematics also. Say, for example, a sunflower. Okay, if we're going to look at sunflower, the number of petals, the number of petals of the sunflower, of course, has a particular number. And if you're going to cut it, still, it is symmetrical. Okay, later on, we will be discovering much more of the seeds of the sunflower, and it's also a specific number of seeds. Okay, another example of another great wonders is this kind of fruit or vegetable. Okay, so if you're going to cut it, you'll see that the inside part of this particular vegetable is also symmetrical. Okay, we have also a butterfly. Okay, a butterfly is also um, an example of a symmetrical animal or insect. Okay, then of course we have the spirals in nature. Okay, spirals are patterns that occur naturally in plants, natural systems, including the weather, and they were studied by mathematicians including Leonardo Fibonacci, who tried to understand order in nature. So you see, as I mentioned a while ago, that a spiral is a pattern that occur naturally. So we have several examples of spirals in nature, and it's something to do with mathematics. Example, the artichoke. Okay, so spiral, you see the pattern, the number of petals or the number of leaves or whatever the artichoke has, it forms spiral. Then we have this one, okay, a typhoon or a tropical depression. So it forms a spiral. It is something to do also with mathematics. Then we have this one. This is what we call ripple effect, and it forms also a spiral. Okay, so these are regularities which we can find in our environment. Then this one also, the fern leaves. Okay, this also depicts a spiral. Of course, we have another example of patterns in nature is tessellation. Tessellation, it uses shapes to cover a surface with no gaps or overlaps. Tessellation is made up of all squares, but it is not limited to just square. It can be any shape. It can also be three-dimensional. But of course, tessellations usually repeated shapes compacted. Okay, compacted, or it is being it has no gap or overlaps at all. Usually it covers a surface. Okay, example of tessellations are this one. Okay, specifically we have example, very typical example is the honeycomb. Okay, honeycomb is a tessellation in nature. Okay, and of course we have this turtle. Okay, the back of the turtle also depicts tessellation. And of course, the famous Fibonacci sequence. So when we speak of Fibonacci sequence, this is a particular sequence of numbers but of course with pattern. And this was discovered by Leonardo Fibonacci. So how does this Fibonacci sequence work? So it started with 1 and followed by 1. The remaining numbers of the sequence has something to do with the sum of the previous numbers. Say for example, how did we get 2? So we add 1 plus 1, so we have 2. And of course, the next digit for the Fibonacci sequence will be 3. How did we get 3? By adding 1 and 2, so we have 3. Then of course, we have 3 plus 5 is 8. Then 5 plus 8 is 13. 8 plus 13 is 21. 13 plus 21 is 34. 21 plus 34 is 55. 34 plus 55 is 89, and so on. So, what will be the next number here? So, since we have established a pattern in Fibonacci, so we will now be adding 233 plus 377, and that would be 610, and the sequence will go on following the pattern. Okay, so Fibonacci sequence is also found in the golden ratio, which we'll be discussing more about these patterns in nature. So if you have questions, just type it in the comment box below, and we'll be answering this in our next lesson. So for now, so I hope you understand what are patterns in nature. See you next time.